You know that feeling when you have something to do and you keep thinking about it, but you just don't start? Maybe it's an email you need to send. Maybe it's a project at work. Maybe it's something simple, like organizing your desk or making a phone call. It sits there in your mind. You think about it when you wake up. You think about it during the day, but you still don't do it. And here's the strange part. The longer you wait, the heavier it feels. What started as a simple task becomes this big thing in your mind. You feel tired just thinking about it. You feel guilty. You promise yourself, I'll do it tomorrow. But tomorrow comes, and the same thing happens again. This is procrastination. And if you've ever felt this way, you're not alone. Most people deal with this every single day. It's one of those things we all understand, but we don't always talk about. I'm glad you're here listening to this. If these kinds of conversations interest you, subscribing helps more people discover them. But more importantly, let's explore this together. Because by the end, you might see procrastination differently. Not as a problem you need to fix with willpower, but as something you can actually understand. So what is procrastination, really? It's when we delay doing something, even though we know we should do it. We choose to do something else instead. Something easier. Something that feels better right now. We watch videos. We check our phones. We clean things that don't need cleaning. Anything except the thing we're supposed to do. And the interesting part is this. We usually know we're doing it. It's not like we forget. The task is right there in our mind. We just can't make ourselves start. Think about that for a moment. Why would we avoid something we know we need to do? Why would we choose to feel guilty and stressed instead of just beginning? Here's what most people think. They think procrastination happens because we're lazy, because we don't care enough, because we lack discipline. And when we believe this, we feel even worse about ourselves. We think there's something wrong with us. But what if that's not true? What if procrastination isn't about being lazy at all? Let me tell you about Maria. She's a designer. She's good at her job. People like her work. But she has this problem. Every time she starts a new project, she waits. She waits for days sometimes. She opens her computer. She looks at the blank screen. Then she closes it and does something else. Her boss thinks she's slow. Her coworkers wonder why she takes so long, and Maria feels terrible about it. She tells herself she's lazy. She promises to do better. But the same pattern keeps happening. One day, someone asks her a simple question. What do you feel when you sit down to start? And Maria stops. She thinks about it, and she realizes something. She doesn't feel lazy. She feels scared. Scared that her ideas won't be good enough. Scared that people won't like what she creates. Scared that she'll disappoint everyone. So her brain does something interesting. It protects her. It says, if you don't start, you can't fail. This is what procrastination really is. It's not about being lazy. It's about feelings, fear, doubt, worry. Our mind tries to protect us from these uncomfortable emotions by keeping us away from the task. And here's the thing that makes it worse. When we wait, we feel guilty. When we feel guilty, the task feels even more scary. So we wait more. It becomes a cycle. The more we avoid, the harder it gets to start. But if you're still here listening, you probably already know this feeling. You felt that weight, that pull between knowing you should do something and not being able to begin. So here's what we're going to explore together. We're going to look at why this happens. Not to make you feel bad, but to help you understand. Because when you understand what's really going on, everything changes. The task doesn't seem so impossible anymore. We're going to talk about the fears that keep us waiting, about why things feel too big to start, and about simple ways to take that first step without all the pressure. Because here's something important. You don't need to become a different person. You don't need perfect discipline or endless motivation. You just need to understand what's happening in your mind, and then starting becomes easier. In the next part, we're going to break down the biggest myth about procrastination. the one that makes us feel worst about ourselves. We're going to look at what's really happening when we delay and why it has nothing to do with being lazy. Take a breath. You're doing fine. Let's continue. Let's talk about something we need to clear up right away. When you procrastinate, you're not being lazy. I know it feels that way. I know other people might say that. But it's not true. Here's why. Think about what lazy actually means. Lazy means you don't want to do anything at all. You just want to rest. You have no energy. You don't care about the result. But when you procrastinate, that's not what's happening. You do care. In fact, you care so much that it keeps you up at night. You think about the task constantly. You feel guilty about not doing it. You make plans to start. You set alarms. You write lists. Does that sound like someone who doesn't care? A lazy person wouldn't feel bad about not doing something. They would just relax and forget about it. But you can't forget. It's always there in your mind. That's not laziness. That's something completely different. Let me tell you about James. He works in an office. He has a report to write. It's important. His boss is waiting for it. Every morning, James wakes up and thinks, "Today I'll finish it." He sits at his desk. He opens the document. Then he checks his email. Then he gets coffee. Then he talks to a coworker. Then he checks his email again. Hours pass. The report is still not done. James feels terrible. He thinks, "Why am I so lazy? Why can't I just do this?" But here's what's really happening. James isn't lazy. James is scared. He's worried the report won't be good enough. He's worried his boss will find mistakes. He's worried he doesn't know enough to write it well. So every time he tries to start, his body feels uncomfortable, his chest feels tight, his mind starts racing, and his brain says, "Let's do something else, something that feels better." This is the truth about procrastination. It's not about avoiding work. It's about avoiding uncomfortable feelings. Think about it this way. When you procrastinate, you're usually still doing things. You're cleaning, you're organizing, you're answering messages, you're busy, but you're busy with the wrong things. You're choosing tasks that feel safe, tasks that don't make you anxious or scared. The task you're avoiding, that one makes you feel something difficult. Maybe fear, maybe doubt, maybe shame. Maybe you're worried you'll fail. Maybe you're worried you'll succeed and then people will expect even more from you. Maybe you don't know where to start and that feeling of confusion is too uncomfortable to sit with. So your brain finds a way out. It says, "Let's do this other thing instead." And for a moment, you feel relief. You're not facing that uncomfortable feeling anymore. But then the guilt comes, and the guilt makes everything worse. Here's what happens next. You feel bad about yourself. You think, "I should be stronger, I should just push through. Other people can do this, why can't I?" And these thoughts make the task feel even bigger, even scarier. So the next time you try to start, there's even more emotion attached to it. More fear, more shame, more pressure. It becomes a cycle. The more you avoid, the worse you feel. The worse you feel, the harder it is to start. But knowing this changes things. When you understand that procrastination is about emotions, not laziness, you can be gentler with yourself. You can ask different questions. Instead of, "Why am I so lazy?" you can ask, "What am I feeling right now? What about this task makes me uncomfortable?" Let me give you another example. Sarah is a student. She has an essay to write. She loves reading. She loves learning. But she can't start this essay. Days pass. The deadline gets closer. She feels more and more stressed. One evening, she sits down and asks herself, "What exactly am I afraid of?" And the answer surprises her. She's not afraid of writing. She's afraid her ideas aren't original. She's afraid the teacher will think she's not smart. She's afraid of seeing her own words on paper and feeling disappointed in herself. Once she sees this, something shifts. The essay is still hard. But now she understands why she's been waiting. It's not because she's lazy, it's because she's protecting herself from feeling not good enough. And here's the interesting part. When you name the feeling, it loses some of its power. When you say, "I'm afraid this won't be good enough," The fear is still there, but it's smaller. It's something you can look at, something you can work with. This is important to understand. Your procrastination is not a character flaw. It's not proof that you're weak or undisciplined. It's actually your mind trying to help you, trying to keep you away from pain. The problem is, avoiding the task creates a different kind of pain. The pain of guilt, the pain of stress, the pain of knowing you're not doing what you need to do. So what do we do with this? How do we move forward when we understand that fear is behind the waiting? That's what we're going to explore next. We're going to look closely at this fear, where it comes from, why it feels so big, and why our brain thinks avoiding is the answer, even though it makes things worse in the long run. If you're still listening, you're already doing something important. You're not running away from this topic, you're staying with it. That takes courage. And that same courage is what will help you start the things you've been avoiding. In the next part, we're going to dig deeper into the fear itself. The fear of not being good enough. The fear of judgment. The fear of failure. Because once you see it clearly, it doesn't control you the same way anymore. Let's keep going. So we've established something important. Procrastination isn't about being lazy. It's about avoiding uncomfortable feelings. And the biggest feeling we're usually avoiding is fear. But let's be specific. What kind of fear are we talking about? Because it's not the kind of fear you feel when you see a dangerous animal. It's not the fear of immediate physical harm. It's something quieter, something that lives in your thoughts. It's the fear of not being good enough. Think about that for a moment. How many times have you avoided starting something because you worried it wouldn't turn out well? You had an idea, but you didn't share it. You wanted to try something new, but you talked yourself out of it. You started writing something, then deleted it all because it didn't sound right. This fear is everywhere, and it's powerful because it attacks something deep inside us. Our sense of worth, our identity, who we think we are. Let me tell you about David. He wants to start a business. He has an idea. He's been thinking about it for months. He's read books, he's watched videos. He knows what he needs to do, but he hasn't started. Not really. He's made plans. He's designed logos. He's thought about names. But he hasn't taken the real first step. He hasn't put his idea out into the world. Why? Because once he does that, people will see it. People will judge it. And if they don't like it, what does that mean? Does it mean David isn't smart? Does it mean he's not capable? Does it mean he was foolish to even try? These questions terrify him. So he waits. He tells himself he's preparing. He's getting ready. But really, he's protecting himself. As long as he doesn't start, he doesn't have to face the possibility of failure. And here's the tricky part. This fear is often invisible. We don't always recognize it. We just feel stuck. We just feel like we can't move forward. We make excuses. I don't have time. I need to learn more first. The conditions aren't right yet. But underneath all those excuses is the same thing. Fear. Fear of being judged. Fear of making mistakes. Fear of discovering we're not as good as we hoped. Now, where does this fear come from? Why do we care so much about being perfect? Part of it comes from how we grew up. Many of us learned early that making mistakes is bad. We got corrected when we did things wrong. We got praised when we did things right. We learned that our value depends on our performance, on getting good grades, on impressing people, on not failing. So when we face a new task, especially something important, our brain remembers all of this. It says, be careful. If you fail at this, people will think less of you. You'll think less of yourself. It's safer to just not try. And in that moment, procrastination feels like the smart choice. It feels like protection. But here's what we don't realize. Avoiding the task doesn't make the fear go away. It actually makes it grow. Every day we wait, the fear gets bigger. The task becomes more important in our minds. The stakes feel higher, and starting feels more and more impossible. Let me give you a different example. Think about something simple, sending a text message to someone you haven't talked to in a long time. maybe an old friend, maybe a family member. You think about it. You want to reach out, but days pass and you don't do it. Why? It's just a message. It takes 30 seconds, but it feels huge. Because what if they don't respond? What if they respond but they're cold? What if they don't want to talk to you? All of these possibilities feel like rejection, and rejection hurts. So you wait. This is how fear works. It takes a small action and makes it feel dangerous. It convinces us that not trying is safer than trying and failing. But there's something we need to understand about this fear. It's trying to protect us, but it's using old information. It's treating every task like a life or death situation, like we're still children who need approval to survive. But we're not children anymore. We can handle failure. We can handle criticism. We can handle things not going perfectly. The fear doesn't know this yet. It's still operating from that old place. That place that says, keep yourself safe. Don't take risks. Don't let people see you mess up. And here's another layer to this. Sometimes we're not just afraid of failing. We're afraid of succeeding. I know that sounds strange, but think about it. If you succeed, people will notice. They'll have expectations. They'll want more from you. And what if you can't deliver next time? What if you succeed once but then fail later? That might feel even worse. So some people procrastinate because success feels like pressure, like a trap, like something that will make life harder, not easier. Rachel is a writer. She finished a book. It's good. Her friends who read it told her to publish it, but she hasn't. She keeps editing. She keeps finding things to fix. She's been doing this for 2 years. One day, someone asks her, "What happens if the book succeeds?" And Rachel goes quiet. She hadn't thought about it that way. But then she realizes, if the book succeeds, people will want another one. They'll expect her to be a real writer. They'll have opinions. And what if she can't write something that good again? What if the first book was luck? This fear keeps her stuck just as much as the fear of failure would. So whether we're afraid of failing or afraid of succeeding, the result is the same. We wait, we avoid, we protect ourselves from the discomfort. But in doing so, we also protect ourselves from growth, from learning, from the satisfaction of actually doing the thing. Now, I'm not saying fear is bad. Fear is natural. It's part of being human. The problem isn't that we feel fear. The problem is that we let it make our decisions for us. We let it convince us that waiting is better than trying. But what if we could feel the fear and start anyway? What if we could say, yes, I'm scared this won't be good enough. Yes, I'm worried about what people will think. But I'm going to take one small step anyway. That's what we're building toward. Understanding the fear is the first step. Seeing it clearly. Naming it. Recognizing when it's showing up. Because once you see it, you have a choice. You can listen to it. Or you can thank it for trying to protect you. And then do the thing anyway. In the next part, we're going to talk about something specific. That feeling when a task seems too big, too overwhelming, when you can't even see where to start. Because this is one of the main ways fear shows up. It makes things look impossible. But there's a way through it, a way that doesn't require you to suddenly become brave or confident. Just a way to take the first step. You're doing well, stay with me, let's continue. There's a specific kind of procrastination that happens when we look at something and think, this is too much. I don't even know where to begin. Maybe it's a big project at work. Maybe it's cleaning your entire house. Maybe it's planning something important. Maybe it's learning a new skill. You look at the whole thing, and your mind just freezes. It feels like standing at the bottom of a mountain and someone telling you to climb it. You can't see the top. You can't see the path. You just see this massive thing in front of you, and you feel small. This is when procrastination feels the most frustrating, because you want to do it. You know you need to do it, but you literally don't know how to start. So you don't. You walk away. You do something else. Something that has a clear beginning and end. Something you can actually finish. And the big task just sits there. getting bigger in your mind every day. Let me tell you about Marcus. He's a teacher. Every year he has to write a curriculum plan for his classes. It's a lot of work. He needs to plan lessons for the whole year. He needs to think about assignments, projects, how to measure progress. It's detailed. It's important. And every year, he waits until the last possible moment. Not because he doesn't care. He cares deeply. But when he thinks about writing the whole plan, his mind goes blank. Where does he even start? With the first week? With the goals? With the materials he needs? The whole thing feels so big that he can't see the individual pieces, so he avoids it. He cleans his classroom instead. He organizes his desk. He answers emails. All useful things, but not the thing he actually needs to do. This happens to all of us. Our brain has trouble with big, undefined tasks. It works better with small, clear steps. When something is too big, we can't process it. We can't hold it all in our mind at once. So we freeze, and here's what makes it worse. When we can't start, we feel stupid. We think, everyone else can handle big projects. Why can't I? We compare ourselves to people who seem organized and productive. We feel like something is wrong with us. But nothing is wrong with us. Our brain is just doing what brains do. They struggle with overwhelm. They need clarity. They need to see the next step, not the entire journey. Think about it this way. If I told you to walk 5,000 steps, that might sound like a lot. You might feel tired just thinking about it. But if I said, just take one step right now, you could do that easily. And then another step. And another. Before you know it, you've walked 5,000 steps. But you didn't think about 5,000. You just thought about one. This is the secret to starting when something feels too big. You don't think about the whole thing. You just think about the smallest possible first step. But here's the problem. Most of us don't break things down small enough. We think we're being specific, but we're not. For example, Marcus might say, "Okay, I'll work on the curriculum today." But that's still too big. Work on the curriculum could mean 100 different things. His brain still doesn't know what to actually do. What if instead he said, "I'll write down 3 main goals for the first month"? That's smaller, more specific. He can picture himself doing that. It might only take 10 minutes. And once he does that, the next step becomes clearer. Maybe the next step is, I'll list the topics for week 1. Another small, doable thing. This is how you climb a mountain, not by looking at the peak, but by looking at the next few steps in front of you. Let me give you another example. Imagine you need to clean your house. The whole house is a mess. If you think, I need to clean everything, you'll probably feel overwhelmed. You'll sit on the couch instead. But what if you thought, I'll pick up 5 things in the living room? That's easy. You can do that right now. And after you pick up 5 things, maybe you think, I'll wipe down the kitchen counter. Another small step. You're not trying to clean the whole house in your mind. You're just doing the next small thing. And then the next. And slowly, the house gets cleaner. Not because you had some burst of motivation, but because you made the steps small enough that your brain didn't panic. This is called breaking things down. And it's one of the most powerful tools against procrastination. But there's something important to understand. When you break something down, you have to be honest about what small really means. Not small for someone else. Small for you. Small for how you're feeling today. Some days you might be able to work for an hour. Other days, 5 minutes feels like a lot. And that's okay. The goal isn't to be perfect. The goal is to start. Because starting is what breaks the cycle. Here's what happens when you take that first small step. Your brain realizes, oh, this isn't as scary as I thought. The task loses some of its power. It becomes real instead of this huge, scary thing in your imagination. And once it's real, it's easier to take the next step. Think about Anna. She needs to apply for a new job. She's been putting it off for weeks. The idea of updating her resume, writing a cover letter, finding job openings, sending applications, it all feels like too much. So she does nothing. But one day she tries something different. She says, I'll just open my old resume. That's all, I'll just look at it. So she does. She opens the file. And once it's open, she thinks, well, I'm already here. I'll just update my phone number. So she does that. And then she thinks, I'll add my most recent job. And she does that too. She's not trying to finish the whole resume. She's just taking tiny steps. But those tiny steps add up. And after 20 minutes, her resume is almost done. Not because she forced herself, but because she made starting so easy that her brain didn't resist. This is the magic of small steps. They trick your brain into beginning. And once you begin, continuing is easier than you think. Now, I know what you might be thinking. But I don't have time to go this slow. I need to finish things quickly. And I understand. But here's the truth. Going slow at first is actually faster than not starting at all. Marcus could spend weeks avoiding his curriculum plan, or he could spend 10 minutes today writing 3 goals. Which one gets him closer to finishing? The small step wins, every time. So when you're facing something that feels too big, ask yourself this question. What's the smallest thing I could do right now? Something so small that I can't say no to it? Maybe it's opening a document. Maybe it's writing 1 sentence. Maybe it's spending 2 minutes researching. Maybe it's just sitting at your desk. Whatever it is, make it small enough that it feels almost silly. Because that's how you know it's small enough to actually do. And once you do that one small thing, you've broken the spell. You've started. And starting is the hardest part. In the next part, we're going to talk about a specific tool you can use. It's called the 2-minute rule, and it's based on exactly what we've been discussing. The power of making things so small, so simple, that your brain can't find a reason to say no. It's one of the most practical things you can try today. You're more than halfway through now. And if you're still here, it means you care about understanding this. That's important. That's the foundation for change. Not forcing yourself. Not fighting yourself. Just understanding. And then taking small steps. Let's continue. Let's talk about something practical now. Something you can actually use today. It's called the 2-minute rule, and it works in 2 different ways. The first way is simple. If something takes less than 2 minutes to do it right now. Don't put it on a list. Don't save it for later. Just do it immediately. Why? Because the mental energy you spend thinking about it, remembering it, feeling guilty about not doing it, that takes more than 2 minutes. So you might as well just do the thing. Think about it. Replying to a quick email. Washing your coffee cup. Putting your shoes away. Throwing out the trash. These things take almost no time. But when we don't do them, they pile up in our minds. We remember them. We feel the weight of them. And that weight is heavier than just doing them would be. This is why some people feel constantly overwhelmed even though they're not actually that busy. They have 20 small things floating around in their head, things they keep meaning to do. And all those small things create noise, mental clutter. They drain your energy without you realizing it. So the first part of the 2-minute rule is about clearing that clutter. When you see something small, do it now. Don't think about it. Don't decide if it's important. Just do it and move on. But there's a second way to use this rule. And this is the part that really helps with procrastination. When you have a big task that you've been avoiding, tell yourself you'll only work on it for 2 minutes. That's all. Just 2 minutes. After that, you can stop if you want. This sounds too simple to work, but it does. And here's why. The hardest part of any task is starting. Once you start, continuing is much easier. Your brain gets into the rhythm. Your focus kicks in. The task doesn't seem as scary once you're actually doing it. But getting to that point, that's where we get stuck. So the 2-minute rule removes the pressure. You're not committing to finishing. You're not even committing to working for a long time. You're just committing to 2 minutes. And 2 minutes is nothing. Anyone can do anything for 2 minutes. Let me tell you about Sophie. She's been avoiding writing a difficult email. It's to her boss. She needs to ask for time off, but she's worried about how it will sound. Every time she thinks about writing it, she feels anxious. So she puts it off. Days pass. The anxiety grows. One morning, she tries the 2-minute rule. She says, I'll just write for 2 minutes. That's it. I don't have to send it. I don't have to finish it. Just 2 minutes. So she sets a timer. She opens her email. She writes, "Hi," and then she writes her boss's name. The timer is still going. She writes one sentence explaining what she needs. The timer hits 2 minutes. She stops. But here's what happens. She looks at what she wrote. It's not finished, but it's started. And starting has made it less scary. The next day, she opens the email again. She reads what she wrote, and she thinks, I'll just add one more sentence. So she does. And then another. And within 5 minutes, the email is done. She didn't force herself. She didn't need massive motivation. She just used 2 minutes to break through the resistance. And once the resistance was broken, the rest came naturally. This is how the 2-minute rule works with big tasks. It gets you over the starting line, and once you're over that line, you often keep going. Not always. Sometimes you really do stop after 2 minutes, but even then, you've made progress. You've moved the task forward, and tomorrow starting again will be easier because you've already begun. Think about exercise. Many people avoid it because they think, I don't have time for a full workout. But what if you said, I'll just do 2 minutes? You could do that. 2 minutes of stretching, 2 minutes of walking, and often, once you start, you keep going. Because you realize it feels good. You realize it's not as hard as you thought. But even if you stop after 2 minutes, you've still done something. You've still moved your body. That's better than nothing. Or think about reading. Maybe you want to read more, but you're tired at the end of the day. You think, I can't read a whole chapter right now. But you could read for 2 minutes, just 2 minutes before bed. Maybe that's half a page. Maybe it's a full page. It doesn't matter. You've read. And over time, those 2-minute sessions add up. The beauty of this rule is that it removes the all-or-nothing thinking. We often think, if I can't do it properly, I won't do it at all. But that thinking keeps us stuck. It makes us wait for the perfect time, the perfect energy, the perfect mood. And that time never comes. The 2-minute rule says, you don't need perfect, you just need 2 minutes. Now, here's something important. When you use this rule, you have to be honest with yourself. You're not tricking yourself into working for hours. You're genuinely giving yourself permission to stop after 2 minutes. Because if you lie to yourself, if you say just 2 minutes but secretly plan to work for an hour, your brain will catch on, and next time, it won't believe you. The resistance will come back. So when you say 2 minutes, mean it. Set a timer if you need to. And when the timer goes off, check in with yourself. Do you want to keep going, or do you want to stop? Either choice is fine. The goal is just to start. Let me give you one more example. Tom has been avoiding cleaning his garage for months. It's a mess. There are boxes everywhere, tools scattered around. It feels overwhelming. Every weekend he thinks about doing it, but he never starts because he knows it will take hours, maybe a whole day. One Saturday, he tries the 2-minute rule. He goes to the garage and says, I'll just put away 2 things, that's it. So he picks up a hammer and hangs it on the wall. He picks up a box and moves it to the shelf. 2 minutes. Done. He goes back inside, but an hour later he's thinking about the garage again, and he realizes, you know what? That wasn't so bad. I'll put away 2 more things. So he does, and then later, 2 more. By the end of the day, he hasn't finished the whole garage, but he's made real progress. And it didn't feel hard because he only did 2 minutes at a time. This is the power of small commitments. They add up. They create momentum. They prove to your brain that starting isn't dangerous. So here's what I want you to think about. What's one thing you've been avoiding? Something that feels too big or too hard or too scary? Now ask yourself, What could I do for just 2 minutes? Maybe it's opening the file. Maybe it's writing one paragraph. Maybe it's making one phone call. Maybe it's organizing one drawer. Whatever it is, make it small, make it 2 minutes, and then do it. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready. Just at some point today. Because 2 minutes is easy, 2 minutes is safe, and 2 minutes is how you start breaking the pattern of waiting. In the next part, we're going to talk about something that stops a lot of people from starting. The need for everything to be perfect. The feeling that if you can't do it perfectly, you shouldn't do it at all. This thinking keeps so many good things from happening. But there's another way to look at it. A way that makes starting feel lighter and more possible. You're doing great, let's keep going. Here's a question. When was the last time you had an idea but didn't act on it because you thought, it's not good enough yet? Maybe you wanted to write something but the words didn't sound right in your head. Maybe you wanted to start a project but you didn't have all the materials. Maybe you wanted to share an idea but you worried people would find problems with it. So you waited. You told yourself you'd do it when it was ready. When it was perfect. But here's the thing about perfect, it never comes. There's always something more you could learn. Always some way it could be better. Always some detail that isn't quite right. So if you wait for perfect, you wait forever. And the thing you wanted to do never happens. This is one of the biggest reasons people procrastinate. Not because they don't care, but because they care so much that they want everything to be exactly right. And when they can't achieve that, they don't start at all. Let me tell you about Elena. She's a photographer. She loves taking pictures, but she never shares them. She has thousands of photos on her computer. Beautiful photos, interesting photos. But when she looks at them, all she sees are the flaws. The lighting isn't perfect. The angle could be better. Someone else has probably done something similar. So she keeps them to herself. Her friends ask to see her work. She says, maybe later, when I have something really good. But that day never comes, because in her mind, nothing is ever really good enough. One day, someone tells her something important. They say, done is better than perfect. At first, Elena doesn't like this. It sounds like settling, like giving up on quality. But then she starts to understand what it really means. It doesn't mean do bad work. It means don't let the fear of imperfection stop you from doing anything at all. Because here's the truth. Everything starts imperfect. Every single thing. The first time you tried to walk, you fell down. The first time you tried to write, the letters were messy. The first time you cooked, the food probably didn't taste great. But you kept going. You got better. And now you can walk without thinking. You can write clearly. You can make a meal. But somewhere along the way, many of us forgot this. We started believing we should be good at things immediately. That if we're not, it means we're not talented, not capable. So we only do things we already know how to do well. We avoid anything new, anything uncertain, anything that might show us at less than our best. And this keeps us small. It keeps us safe. But it also keeps us from growing. Think about this. Every book you love was once a rough draft. Every song you enjoy was once just a person humming a melody. Every building you admire was once just a sketch on paper. Nothing starts perfect. Everything starts messy. And that's okay. That's how things work. But we forget this when it's our own work, our own ideas. We hold ourselves to impossible standards. We compare our beginning to someone else's middle or end, and we feel like we can't possibly measure up. Let me give you another example. Michael wants to start a podcast. He has interesting things to say. He's listened to hundreds of podcasts. He knows what good ones sound like. But when he imagines his own voice on a recording, he freezes. What if he stumbles over words? What if his ideas don't come out clearly? What if people think it's boring? So he keeps planning. He keeps researching. He keeps buying better equipment, but he never records that first episode. Because he's waiting to feel ready, waiting to know exactly what to say, waiting for it to be good. But here's what he doesn't realize. The only way to get good is to start bad. The only way to find your voice is to use it, even when it sounds awkward. The podcasters he admires, they weren't good at first either. They got good by doing it, by making mistakes, by learning what worked and what didn't. This is what making friends with imperfection means. It means accepting that the first version of anything won't be great, and doing it anyway. Not because you don't care about quality, but because you understand that quality comes from practice. And practice requires you to start before you're ready. There's something called the perfect moment trap. People wait for the perfect time to start, when they have more money, when they have more time, when they feel more confident, when the conditions are just right. But perfect conditions never come. There's always something. You're always busy. You never have quite enough money. You never feel completely ready. So if you wait for perfect, you never move. The truth is, there's no perfect time, there's only now. And now is always a little messy, a little uncertain, a little scary, but it's all we have. Let me tell you about a writer named Anne Lamott. She wrote a book about writing. In it, she talks about something she calls shitty first drafts. That's her actual phrase. And her point is this: every good piece of writing starts with a bad first draft. You have to give yourself permission to write badly, to get the ideas out, even if they're messy, even if they don't make sense yet, because you can't edit nothing. You can't improve something that doesn't exist. This applies to everything, not just writing. You can't improve a project you haven't started. You can't fix a business idea you haven't tried. You can't get better at something you're too scared to attempt. So the first step is always the same. Do it badly, do it imperfectly, do it scared, just do it. And here's what happens when you do. You learn things. You see what works and what doesn't. You get feedback. You improve. Not because you suddenly became talented, but because you gave yourself the chance to practice. Think about children. They don't wait until they can draw perfectly to pick up a crayon. They just draw. And their drawings are messy. The colors go outside the lines. The proportions are wrong. But they don't care. They're having fun. They're experimenting. And over time, with practice, they get better. We need to bring some of that back. That willingness to try without needing to be good right away. That understanding that making something imperfect is still making something. And making something is always better than making nothing. So if you've been waiting to start something until you feel ready, I want you to consider this. What if you started now, exactly as you are, with exactly what you have? What would that look like? Maybe it wouldn't be polished, maybe it wouldn't be impressive, but it would be real. It would exist. And that's the first step toward making it better. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to begin. And you can begin messy. You can begin uncertain. You can begin with mistakes and rough edges. That's not failure. That's just how everything worthwhile starts. In the next part, we're going to talk about something practical again. Your environment. The space around you. Because it turns out, where you are and what's around you has a huge effect on whether you start or keep procrastinating. Small changes in your environment can make starting feel natural instead of forced, and that's what we'll explore next. You're almost there. Stay with me. Let's talk about something we don't think about enough. The space around you, the place where you work, where you try to focus, where you attempt to start the things you've been avoiding. Most people think procrastination is just about willpower, about being strong enough to resist distractions, about forcing yourself to focus. But that's not quite right. Because the truth is, your environment is constantly pushing you towards certain behaviors. And if your environment is set up wrong, you're fighting an uphill battle every single day. Let me explain what I mean. Imagine you're trying to eat healthier. You decide, I'm going to stop eating cookies. That's your goal. But then you go home, and there's a jar of cookies on your kitchen counter. Right there, in front of you. Every time you walk into the kitchen, you see them, you smell them, and your brain says, just one cookie, that's fine. Now you could fight this every single time. You could use willpower to resist, and maybe you succeed once, twice, But by the third or fourth time, you're tired. Your willpower is used up, and you eat the cookie. But what if you just removed the jar? What if the cookies weren't on the counter? What if they weren't in the house at all? Suddenly resisting is much easier. Not because you got stronger, but because the temptation isn't right in front of you. This is what I mean by environment. It's not just about being disciplined. It's about making the right choices easier and the wrong choices harder. So when it comes to procrastination, the same principle applies. If you want to write, but your desk is covered in clutter, starting is harder. If you want to work, but your phone is right next to you, getting distracted is easier. Your environment is either helping you or working against you. Let me tell you about Carlos. He works from home. He has a desk in his bedroom. Every morning he sits down to work. But he can't focus. He gets distracted. He procrastinates. He feels frustrated with himself. One day he really looks at his workspace, and he realizes something. His desk faces his bed. So when he's trying to work, he sees his bed. Comfortable. Inviting. His brain keeps thinking, you could just lie down for a minute. Also, his phone is on the desk, right next to his computer. Every notification pulls his attention away. He makes two small changes. He moves his desk so it faces the wall, and he puts his phone in another room when he works. That's it. Two simple changes. And suddenly, working becomes easier. Not because he became more disciplined, but because his environment stopped fighting him. The bed is out of sight. The phone isn't calling for his attention. He can actually focus. This is the power of environment. Small changes, big effects. Now you might be thinking, I don't have control over my environment. I work in an office. I can't change things. And that's partly true. You can't change everything, but you can change more than you think. Maybe you can't move your desk, but you can clear the clutter off it. Maybe you can't control the noise around you, but you can use headphones. Maybe you can't eliminate all distractions, but you can put your phone in a drawer, or turn off notifications, or close unnecessary tabs on your computer. Every small change matters, because together they add up. They create an environment that supports focus instead of breaking it. Let me give you another example. Lisa wants to exercise in the morning. She sets her alarm, but when it goes off, she hits snooze. She stays in bed. She tells herself she'll exercise later, but later never comes. So she tries something different. The night before, she puts her workout clothes right next to her bed. She puts her shoes by the door. She fills her water bottle and leaves it on the counter. She removes every small obstacle between waking up and starting to exercise, and it works. Not every day, but most days. Because when she wakes up, she doesn't have to think. She doesn't have to make decisions. She just follows the path her environment created. The clothes are right there. The shoes are ready. The water is waiting. Starting is easy. This is called designing your environment. You're not relying on motivation. You're not hoping you'll feel like doing it. You're setting things up so that the action you want to take is the easiest option. Think about it this way. If you want to read more, put a book on your pillow. When you get into bed, you'll see it. You'll probably pick it up. But if the book is on a shelf in another room, you probably won't go get it. The extra effort is enough to stop you. If you want to drink more water, put a glass of water on your desk. You'll drink it without thinking. But if you have to get up and go to the kitchen every time, you probably won't drink as much. If you want to work on a project, have the materials ready. Don't bury them in a closet. Put them somewhere visible, somewhere accessible. So when you have a free moment, starting is simple. These seem like tiny things, and they are. But tiny things create habits, and habits create change. Now there's another part to this. It's not just about making good things easier. It's also about making distractions harder. If you waste time on social media, delete the apps from your phone, or at least log out. So every time you want to check, you have to type in your password. That small barrier is often enough to make you stop and think, do I really need to do this right now? If you watch too much TV, unplug it. Put the remote in a drawer. make turning it on require a little effort. Often that's enough to break the automatic habit. This isn't about punishing yourself, it's about being honest. If something pulls your attention away from what matters, make it harder to access. Not impossible, just harder. Just enough friction to give you a chance to choose. Let me tell you about Jennifer. She's a designer. She needs to focus for several hours to do good work. But her email kept interrupting her. Every notification broke her concentration. She would tell herself, "I just won't check it." But she always did. So she tried something different. She installed an app that blocks her email for set periods of time. When she needs to work, she turns it on. For 2 hours, she can't access her email even if she wants to. At first, it felt restrictive, but then she realized something. It was freeing. She didn't have to fight the temptation. The decision was already made. She could just work. This is what good environment design does. It takes decisions out of your hands. It removes the need for constant willpower. It makes the right thing feel natural. So think about your own environment, your workspace, your home, the places where you try to do the things you keep avoiding. What's making it harder? What's distracting you? What could you change? Maybe it's clearing your desk. Maybe it's putting your phone away. Maybe it's going to a different room. Maybe it's closing the door. Maybe it's playing background noise to block out other sounds. Maybe it's having a glass of water ready so you don't get up every 10 minutes. Small changes, that's all you need. You don't have to redesign your entire life. Just make starting a little easier. Make distractions a little harder. And watch how it changes your ability to begin. Because the truth is, you're not as undisciplined as you think. You're just working against your environment. And when your environment changes, you change too. Not because you force it, but because the path of least resistance shifts, and you naturally follow it. In the final part, we're going to talk about something important. The feeling that comes after you start. After you stop procrastinating and actually do the thing. Because that feeling is worth remembering. It's what makes all of this worthwhile. And it's what will help you start again next time. Let's finish this together. We've talked about a lot. The fear behind procrastination. The way tasks feel too big. The need for perfection. The power of small steps. How your environment shapes your actions. All of it has been building toward one moment. The moment when you actually start. And I want to talk about what happens after that moment. Because there's a feeling that comes. A feeling that's easy to forget when you're stuck in avoidance. But once you experience it, you remember why starting matters. It's relief. Not the relief of finishing. Not the satisfaction of completing something perfectly. Just the simple relief of no longer carrying the weight of not doing it. Think about the last time you finally did something you'd been avoiding. Maybe it was a difficult conversation. Maybe it was a task at work. Maybe it was something small, like making a phone call or sending a message. Do you remember how you felt afterward? Probably lighter, like you could breathe again. Like a pressure you didn't even realize you were carrying suddenly lifted. That's what happens when you stop procrastinating. The thing itself might be hard, but it's never as hard as the guilt, the stress, the constant reminder in your mind that you should be doing it, but you're not. Let me tell you about Nina. She had a paper to write for school. She avoided it for 2 weeks. Every day she thought about it. Every day she felt bad. The guilt was always there, in the background. It affected her mood. It made her irritable. It kept her from enjoying other things because she knew she should be working. Finally, one afternoon, she sat down and started. Just started. And you know what she noticed? The actual writing wasn't that bad. It was challenging, sure, but it wasn't torture. It wasn't impossible. And as she wrote, something interesting happened. The guilt disappeared. The stress faded. She felt focused, present, almost calm. When she finished, she wasn't thrilled with what she wrote. It wasn't perfect, but she felt so much better. Not because the paper was done, but because she was no longer avoiding it. She was no longer fighting herself. This is what people don't tell you about procrastination. The task itself is usually not the worst part. The worst part is living with the knowledge that you should be doing it. That constant, nagging feeling. That weight. And when you start, even if the task is difficult, that weight disappears. You're engaged now. You're doing something. And doing something, even something hard, feels better than avoiding something easy. There's another feeling that comes too. It's a quiet kind of pride. Not the loud pride of achieving something great, but the simple pride of keeping a promise to yourself. Every time you say you'll do something and then you don't, you lose a little trust in yourself. You start to doubt whether you can rely on yourself. Your own words start to mean less. But when you do what you said you'd do, when you start even though it's hard, you build that trust back. You prove to yourself that you can. And that feeling is powerful. It's not flashy. It's not something you'd brag about. But you feel it, deep down. A small confirmation that you're capable. Let me tell you about Robert. He's been wanting to learn guitar for years. He bought a guitar. It sat in the corner of his room. Every time he looked at it, he felt a little ashamed. He told himself he'd practice, but he never did. One day, he picked it up. Just for 5 minutes. His fingers hurt. The sounds he made weren't musical, but he did it. And when he put the guitar down, he felt different. He felt like someone who plays guitar. Not someone who's good at it, just someone who actually does it. That feeling stayed with him. The next day, he practiced again, and the next. Not because he suddenly found motivation, but because starting once made starting again easier. He proved to himself it was possible, and that made all the difference. This is what happens when you break the cycle of procrastination. You don't just complete a task, you change how you see yourself. You become someone who starts things, someone who follows through. And that identity shift is more valuable than any single accomplishment. Now, I want to be clear about something. Starting doesn't make everything easy. You'll still face resistance sometimes. You'll still have days when you don't want to do the thing. That's normal. That's human. The goal isn't to never struggle. The goal is to understand the struggle, to see it for what it is, and to have tools that help you move through it. Everything we've talked about, understanding fear, breaking tasks down, using the 2-minute rule, accepting imperfection, designing your environment, these aren't magic solutions. They're just tools, ways to make starting a little easier, ways to reduce the friction between you and the thing you want to do. But the real change happens inside. When you understand that procrastination isn't about being lazy, when you see the fear behind the avoidance, when you realize you can start small and still make progress, when you accept that imperfect action beats perfect planning, when you notice how your environment affects your choices, this understanding changes everything, not overnight, but gradually, one small start at a time. So here's what I hope you take from this. The next time you're avoiding something, pause. Ask yourself what you're really feeling. Is it fear? Is it overwhelm? Is it perfectionism? Just notice. Don't judge. Just see it. Then ask yourself, what's the smallest step I could take right now? Not the whole task, just one tiny step. Something so small it feels almost silly. And then, if you can, take that step, just one. See what happens. Notice how you feel after. Not just relief, though, that's there, but also that quiet sense of capability, that proof that you can. You don't have to do this perfectly. You don't have to start everything today. You don't have to suddenly become a different person. You just have to understand yourself a little better. And then, when you're ready, take one small step. Because starting isn't about motivation. It's not about willpower. It's not about waiting until you feel like it. It's about understanding what stops you, and then gently, kindly, moving past it anyway. You've listened to this whole conversation. That says something about you. It says you care about growth, about understanding, about becoming someone who doesn't just think about change, but actually moves toward it. That matters. That's the foundation of everything. So if one idea from this stayed with you, I'd genuinely love to know which one. Not because I need to know, but because sometimes naming the thing that resonates helps it stick, helps it become something you actually use instead of just something you heard. But whether you share that or not, I hope you take this with you. You're not broken. You're not lazy. You're human. And being human means sometimes we struggle to start. Sometimes we feel afraid. Sometimes we wait. But it also means we can understand, we can learn, we can change one small step at a time. And that's enough. That's more than enough. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And good luck with whatever it is you've been meaning to start. You can do it. Maybe not perfectly, maybe not today, but you can. Take care.